my friends are making the craziest movies. And I remember at the time, just like that really stuck with me. I remember just being like, that is the goal. It is like, I want someone to say that about me.
Welcome to the American Cinematheque podcast, the show where guests program the film festival of their lives. Joining us today is a writer-director. You know them from the films We're All Going to the World's Fair, I Saw the TV Glow, and in theaters this week, Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. Programming the Jane Schoenbrun Film Festival, it's Jane Schoenbrun.
Hello, welcome to my film festival.
Welcome. I'm your host, Grant Moniger, and as always, we get to know our guests the best way we know how, and that's by finding out your movie theater ritual. When you go to the movie theater, what do you do?
God, you know what? It actually depends on the theater. I go both ways. In this way, I'm bisexual. Because sometimes sitting in the back row is like the most romantic thing ever. If it's a theater where the screen is a certain like magnitude, I feel comfortable with the back row. If it's a smaller screen, I want to be like right up front. I did have this like phase in my 20s where I was very staunchly like first three rows. Like I just want to be like completely devoured by this thing in front of me. But yeah, there's something really romantic and cool about like getting, really anonymous in the back row and just kind of like seeing the whole space. The Metrograph in New York, that's one that I love to sit in the back row in.
Are you an aisle back row or immersed?
No, I like to be as close to the middle as I can. Being center screen is more important to me than being able to make a swift escape.
Do you have any concessions? Any other rituals?
Yeah. I mean, it's in Miasma. There, very early in the movie, you see Chris pour the raisinets into the popcorn, which my friend Lauren Wolkstein, who's a great filmmaker, taught me that trick 10, 15 years ago. Hannah, the actor in Miasma, Hannah Einbinder, has recently gotten me back into ices. Also, that was a big childhood movie theater snack for me. I love something about the blue icy was just endlessly thrilling to me at the multiplex, and I've been going to the Regal a little bit, and an icy at the Regal with a spoon, that's my twist.
And it's always blue?
Eat it with the spoon. No, sometimes I'll swirl, but if I have the choice between red and blue, I'm going blue.
Nice.
The less natural, the better,
Right. Do you remember the first time you walked into a movie theater?
I mean, the story my parents would tell is that I think my first movie in the theater was Little Mermaid. I must have been 2, 3. I must have been 9 going to see James and the Giant Peach with my family. But we accidentally walked into the movie theater that was playing Scream. And the way that movie opens is with just a knife through the screen, and you hear it's scary as hell. And I remember getting up and being where in the I'm not supposed to be here, and just running. I sprinted out of that fucking theater. I was so terrified. And then 6 months later is my favorite movie.
Yeah. So 6 months later, that quick.
Oh yeah. By the time Scream 2, I remember going to see in theaters on family vacation with my step grandma. I was she was new to the family. And she took me to the movies, and I remember she smuggled in a full bushel of bananas. Yeah, and I Scream 2, I think what it was that 97. I would have been 10 years old, and I loved it.
Wow,
I loved
banana, underrated snack for movie theater. Very
snack.
Quiet.
Well, as I told you before we started recording, I worked at a movie theater in high school for several years, and so I got really used to, sweeping up all of both the official and then the bootleg snuck in snacks. There was one lady who was always eating peanuts, but shelled peanuts. And so every couple weeks I'd just find the biggest pile of peanut shells on the ground to sweep up while I listened to the best part about that job was you would, if a movie had really good end credit songs, you would just hear them 24 times while you cleaned up the theater.
What was the best?
You know what? There's this David Byrne song that plays during the end credits of Dirty Pretty Things. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
I love that song. This was right around the era of I feel it was maximum indie twee era. So I was working there when Garden State came out. I remember those songs really very, very present in my life multiple times a day for a while there.
It's why you never kill the credits for a Q&A, because sometimes the best things are those last songs, or they just leave you with a...
It's a tough question. That's a question that I wrestle with.
Yeah.
This movie, my new movie, has a little stinger after the credits, so we've been playing the whole credits. But yeah, you can kind of... It's funny, at Cannes, because they do these like standing ovations, right? That's the thing, is like letting the entire credits roll. It just feels so weird because everyone's like standing and clapping, and then it ends, and you're like, well, you've already been standing and clapping for 5 minutes, but you want to do more of it. Like, go right ahead.
Yeah.
Very awkward.
So let's get back into Scream for a second. You weren't supposed to be there, and then within 6 months, it became your favorite thing.
100%.
So did you have the fear and then love that feeling, or you wanted to investigate it?
I think those feelings were like fear and desire, classically related. Yeah. The horror section of the video store, especially from a young age, I think really was calling to me with like the understanding that like, ooh, I probably shouldn't, like there's something like forbidden about that area when you're 8 years old, but enticing. All the boxes are like a little different color, they're all like black and red, a little less sun faded than everything else because they keep them away from the light. But yeah, I remember like, the first couple horror movies, which were probably on video, were like very dangerous items, and then very quickly it was just voracious. In 5th grade, I watched all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies in like the span of 1 week from the video store, and it was just like mainlining heroin,
All right, let's get to why we're here. Behind you is a marquee with 8 different showtimes. You're going to program these out of your favorite, most formative movie-going experiences. We got opening night, family matinee, midnight movie, secret screening, double feature, audience award, dream screening, and closing night. Nothing's locked in until the end, so you can move things around, change your mind. There are no rules, Jane. It's your festival. Is there anything you want to play immediately on this board, either something we talked about or something you just want to play?
If I just want to play. Do we go in order, or do we...
Go any way you want.
Oh, interesting. I mean, why don't we start with Midnight Movie? Because that's like, they're all probably going to be a little bit Midnight Movie, so I guess we should come up with one that's like extra Midnight Movie. All right, let's think. What's a great Midnight Movie? I got it. It's Freddy Got Fingered.
Freddy Got Fingered.
Tom Green.
When did you first see Freddy Got Fingered?
In theaters.
Yeah?
Yeah. It would have been 2001, because that movie to me is like the perfect just before 9/11 movie. Like only before 9/11 does that movie get made for $20 million and released in American theaters in the suburbs for 11-year-olds to get their parents to buy them tickets for, because it's rated R, because Tom Green is sucking off cows. And it's grotesque. It's a horror show. It is nonstop. Have you seen it?
Yeah, and it's also, Tom Green was kind of speaking to the youth. No one else really knew of Tom Green, except if you were younger, you were more...
To me, it's like one of the great examples of one of my favorite subgenres. I would also count something like Southland Tales in this subgenre. Heaven's Gate, obviously being the classic example. The like, I'm cashing it all in on one. Because Freddy Got Fingered, Tom Green had an MTV show. Yeah. He was like a prankster. He kind of like rode the Jackass wave. Yeah. And whereas the Jackass guys started making Jackass movies, right? And still to this day, obviously, are making their Jackass movies. Tom Green was like, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to make the most, the most repulsive. It's not funny. It's unpleasant. Horror comedy, but like horror in big font, comedy in the tiniest font. The plot of the movie being, of course, that Tom Green has a very toxic relationship with his father, Rip Torn. And they're just constantly antagonizing each other. Tom Green's goal is to be a comic book artist, but he moves to the big city and gets a job at the sausage factory and kind of like fails out of adult life and comes back and just goes to war with his father and then falsely accuses his father of molesting his brother, Freddy, which is where the title Freddy Got Fingered comes from. But he chews on umbilical cords. He hand delivers a baby. There's like his girlfriend in the movie, his love interest is a paraplegic woman in a wheelchair who gets off on him smacking her legs with a baseball bat. It's fucking disgusting. It ruined his career. He moved back to Canada.
So was he dating Drew Barrymore?
Yeah. This was the apex, and he, to me, it is like one of the truest artist moves to just fully make like it's like the worst part of like a Buñuel movie for 2 hours. It's nasty. And the A.O. Scott review, which is beautiful. Because this movie was like universally abhorred. People hated this fucking movie. A.O. Scott said, the last line of his review for the New York Times said, like it or not, Tom Green is an artist.
Let's do it. Midnight movie, Freddie Got Fingered. So that's a small screen going to a big screen. I want to talk a little bit about your relationship with screens, and some of that is that you take in your film either VHS or episodic television, and you then transpose them into a big screen, kind of a theatrical experience. What is your relationship? I mean, your films are about this, but what is your relationship with the smaller screens and your love of taking them to the bigger screen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's like probably all deciphered around like where I came from, right? And I was not raised in like a culturally like I didn't get film history until later on, you know, like my parents weren't showing me Ingmar Bergman movies. They were like leaving me alone so I could watch South Park. Where I was getting my culture from, and I was quite voracious about culture, was like first the video store and the TV screen, then the internet, and then only like after high school did I sort of find my way to the art house and sort of like learn in reverse like the quote unquote like film canon and become like a real like art house snob. And I think this is like reflected in the like low culture, high culture kind of dichotomy in my movies, is that yeah, like I lived and breathed and loved, like grew up like just so in love with with pop, like these pop cultural like ephemeras that I would just become obsessed with, whether that be like the Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, or like a WB TV show like Buffy, or like just like the weird shit I was finding in the depths of the early internet. Like that was the art and media that I was seeking out. And so like those languages and that experience of having these like cathartic, really deep relationships with like trashy stuff, that's my origin. But also like I'm like a over intellectual, like now I like read theory and hate the world and capitalism and all that kind of shit. And so it's like the movies are this funny mix of the two. They're very like critical, or they kind of have like both like a lot of love and a lot of like desire to like destroy those the like pop culture language of my youth. I think of it somehow as almost like in the same way that like you had John Ford and then you had Peckinpah, and like Peckinpah was the like revisionist Western guy, or like the things that were like ugly about the genre become the point. I almost think of like my positionality in like a film lineage as like revisionist, like Spielberg or something. You know, it's like I both like love that language of the video store, and I kind of want to like rip it to shreds. Is
there there's a moment, like if we go to TV Glow, you love the Pink Opaque, the character rewatches it on streaming, doesn't, but then you as the artist sew those two things together and then turn it into high art. Was there a moment where some of the stuff you loved dipped out when you were finding more art films, or was it always there with you?
No, always, right?
Yeah.
I think that scene resonates because people have their own experiences with this like time ravishing the things they love and revealing them in new light. It's I love going back and watching a movie that meant so much to me when I was like 15 years old. And sometimes it's just like, oh, that's better than I even realized. That like holds up completely. And sometimes it's like, oh my God, like how did I not see all of those things that were ugly about it that now I feel so alienated from? I think that's a constant experience. And it's, I think in TV Glow, it's like trying to speak specifically to like an experience of shame, right? Like the thing with that show is like, it's like for girls or whatever, right? And so, and it's like kid stuff, and at that point in the movie when Owen is rewatching it, he's like watching it through the eyes of like someone who hates himself a lot, and so even the thing that he loved so much looks like embarrassing to him, which that too is like an experience I think we can all relate to. Like it's making my own movies, I've really learned that like at a certain point, and it happens really early on, like in post-production, the only way you can see the movie is through someone else's eyes. So you have to sit there and like watch it with an audience or one other person if you hope to like see it as a movie that someone is engaging with. You can't do that yourself at a certain point. And there really should be a word for it, right? Like a word for like how it feels to show someone your favorite movie and have them like clearly fucking hate it, and you're sitting there like embarrassed, like looking at it like, oh, or showing someone your favorite movie and knowing that it's like blowing their world.
Yeah, there should be a German word someone says for that.
Yeah.
And then new film, you have such a love and understanding of those horror films. As Scream, you mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street, Sleepaway Camp. The film within the film is so perfect. Was there any of those films, and what was your relationship to slashers before and then after making this film, or during?
Yeah, like just like nerdy love. Like it's one of those genres that like I'll watch almost anything.
Yeah.
You know, if there's like a whodunit kind of slasher, like Eli Roth movie Thanksgiving. Like I saw that shit because I'm like, oh, it's like a slasher movie on Thanksgiving. Like sure, I'll watch that. Like I'm easy when it comes to slashers. Like I went to see the new Evil Dead the weekend it came out. Like I just will. It's like yeah, it's almost like I keep them in my back pocket for like a Tuesday night when I'm not doing anything. And then it's just like, you know what, I'm going to take myself to the movies and watch like a potentially bad horror movie. I love it. It's so like, those movies are just like filled with pleasures. And the rituals of them are so like refined that, yeah, you kind of like, even when they're bad, they're good. And, they scratch these itches in various ways. Like really has very little to do with like fear to me. It's not about like, ooh, I'm scared. It's about like Halloween and the excitement of like being a kid, like in a, you know, space that's like a little spookier than real life or something. Yeah. Those movies are like, it's like breathing. And whenever I get to treat myself to like going full genre in one of these ways, it's just like, yeah, it feels like childhood. It's like, oh my God, I get to like do the thing that I loved watching when I was a kid.
Any of those films we want to play up on the board? Any of the horror genre that made an effect that needs to go up here?
Let's do a double feature.
Okay.
Let's do a horror double feature. Because, oh my God, I love September 1st to honestly till November 3rd. I'm like a spooky season starts in September person, which, you know, and it's like clearly still summertime in New York where I live. But I'm like, it's September 1st. My dream fall is like every night is a horror double feature. Cause I think that like horror lends itself to a double feature so beautifully. I mean, I love a double feature in general, but there's something about like, there are so many different types of horror films that it's very rare that like you completely scratch the itch with just one. All right, I got it actually. Okay. This is like a classic me spooky season double feature. We're going to start with Idle Hands. Okay. Remember Idle Hands? Yeah. Underrated. It's got all of that like 90s post-Evil Dead pastiche that I love. And then we're going to go into Carnival of Souls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But see, this is the great double feature thing is that like the movies don't really speak to each other except in the way that they balance each other out. And if we're talking about like, it's spooky season, the weather's changing, maybe you got some like candy corn on hand, you just want to feel that like, you know, October Halloween energy. It's like you start with this really fun poppy, you know, it's like, oh, the fucking Offspring are playing and the guy from the Offspring's getting his like head scalped by the evil hand, and you know, Seth Green. Before there was Seth Rogen, there was Seth Green, and he is a stoner zombie, and Jessica Alba. You know, it's just like it's like the best kind of like pop trash from my youth. So it's just like it's totally it goes down like candy corn. And then sometimes you want to do the arty slow movie first, and sometimes you want like the first one to be like prelude, right? It's like oh, let's like have some fun before we get serious. Carnival of Souls, like I watch that one over and over again. It's such a great like it's one of these movies like that kind of predates like the independent film era, or like the era when it was easy to make an independent film, but it feels like one of these movies that's like haunted. Like the movie is about things that are haunted, but the movie itself feels haunted. It feels like unfinished and just like made off the grid and just like like somebody like dropped it into the lake and then they found it a bunch of years later is kind of the energy of that movie. But it has this thing that like it's a subgenre of horror for me that's like dream horror, you know, like horror that like has the horror of not even necessarily a nightmare, but like a dream that just feels like its unreality is creeping. Yeah, I love this type of movie. I try to make this type of movie most of the time. And so I think like, yeah, wait for the sun to set in the fall, pop on Idle Hands, follow it up with Carnival of Souls. Maybe it's like 11:30 p.m. by the time you're done. You're going to have cool dreams that night.
It's very drive-in programming. And bring them out for Idle Hands and then surprise them with Carnival of Souls.
I love a double feature.
Let's do it. Idle Hands, Carnival of Souls, double feature. We have Freddy Got Fingered, Idle Hands, Carnival of Souls. We still got opening night, family matinees.
Let's do opening night. I got
Let's do it. What do you got?
Stop Making Sense.
Where did you see Stop Making Sense?
Well, this is why I suggested it, because it was an amazing movie theater experience for me. Forget if it was my first time watching it. It probably was my first time watching that film. I've seen that film dozens of times. I study that movie. There's a movie theater. I grew up in Westchester, New York, in the suburbs. There's this movie theater, the David Byrne's. Are you familiar with that space? It's like an art house theater that Jonathan Demme was super involved in back in the day. I remember going to see him speak before movies in high school there. A couple times, like Kevin Smith, who I was a big Kevin Smith head when I was a kid. He came through the David Byrne's, and yeah, I was like begging them to give me a job. I really wanted to work at the David Byrne's in high school, but they wouldn't hire me. But and it was like a couple towns over. It was like kind of like like sometimes I remember even like taking the bus there, like taking public transit in the suburbs, like way out of the way, and being like, oh, how the fuck am I gonna get home? It was either college or right after college, like that thing where you're like back in your hometown and you're smoking a lot of weed and your friends are there and you're in your early 20s and you're like really depressed and just bumming around. And the David Byrne's was showing Stop Making Sense. And I remember right before the movie, they showed the music video for No Surprises by Radiohead, one of the best music videos ever made. It's incredible. I think I was like we like smoked weed in the car before the movie. And I just like, that was a cinema night for me. You know, that was like perfect. I take people to see, like, I have a lot of friends who aren't cinephiles, who really could care less about movies. And I remember they were playing Stop Making Sense at this local theater up by me. I live in upstate New York now, and I made all of my friends come, and they really had no interest in it. But by the end, they were, like, dancing in the aisles with everyone. It's, like, it's so ecstatic. But what's ecstatic about it is that it's, like, yes, it's a concert film, but it's like a concert film that was clearly like the concert was designed for film. It's not the other way around. It's not like, oh, Billie Eilish is playing a show, let's go film it and figure out the best way to like cover this thing that's already happening. Like the technique on display in that film and just like the love of movement shared between these two auteurs, David Byrne and Jonathan Demme. It's like a perfect fusion of these two different mediums. And just like the way that even though it's like a feature-length concert without anything else, and you're just watching people play music, how every single song is shot in a completely different way, or it like has a different visual kind of like set of rules that are keeping your interest. Like sometimes it's just all about like, oh, we're going to just focus on this one drummer who is like having the fucking time of his life, or it's about like light, you know, like famously, obviously there's a dance with a light. Or it's about like the background projection, the rear projections going on, the way that that is composed, almost as this challenge of like how to make like an ecstatic, pure cinema experience in the form of a live stage show is, it thrills me with cinema.
Shot right down the street from here at the Pantages Theater.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Stop Making Sense, opening night.
And while we're at it, you know what? Let's do some closing night. Let's do true stories. David, if anyone represents like honorary, non-binary, autistic, like sexiness, it's our man, David Byrne. You know, there is just something about that guy and his rubbery way of being in the world and his like alien perspective. It's such a comfort to me. I think like opening and closing with those two films is perfect because they're comfort watches for me. I had like my first ever big breakup, like deep heartbreak a couple years ago. And I drove home was like crying, and all my friends were like, you get to choose the movie. And I was like, all right, we're watching True Stories.
Nice.
Like, that is the ultimate comfort movie to me, because it's just like, yeah, I mean, maybe like Freddy Got Fingered, like a genre of movie that we don't do enough anymore, which is like, what if we just we gave a weirdo like a bunch of millions of dollars and let him just like do what he wants with it? And that movie, like Stop Making Sense, is such a gift of like, there's like a fashion show in the middle of the movie. And you're just watching a fashion show for 5 minutes.
We get John Goodman in True Stories.
John Goodman is, the gentle, looking for love teddy bear guy.
Yeah.
The music is great in True Stories. It kind of has this almost like parts of it feel like a Terrence Malick film, or like it almost like, to me, it like predates like Gummo in some way. There's just this like Americana, like weird kids wandering around the desert kind of feel to it that at times is amazing. Some amazing, like intentionally terrible green screen for David Byrne fake driving around town. There's like all of this stuff in it about the internet. It was made in the mid 80s. Right. He's like talking about Steve Jobs and Apple, and like also famously, second Radiohead mention of the night, the name Radiohead comes from that movie.
Right.
My friend Marnie, who's a great filmmaker, she made a film called Creststone. We were at a film festival in Dallas, the Oak Cliff Film Festival, which is a great festival, and they were doing an outdoor screening in someone's backyard of that movie, and I'd seen it before, and Marnie was like, this is one of those movies, I watch it every 6 months. And I watched it and I was like, yep, now it is for me too.
All right, that's it. Closing night. Going back to David Byrne, True Stories. So you worked at a movie theater.
Yes.
What was that experience like? And maybe that'll lead us to one of these.
Yeah, that was fun. That was like, having a job in high school sucks. And that's like a night job, It's like I'm like one of my weekend nights at least every week is stuck there at the movie theater, and there's a lot of downtime, and so you're like killing time with coworkers. We would play a lot of like pranks on our boss. It was kind of classic, honestly. Like our boss, it was okay. So here's the important thing about the Clearview 100 that I worked at on Knollwood Road in Greenburgh, New York. Since closed during the pandemic. It was 4 screens. It was an art house, but it was one of these like it was Clearview, so it was like a major chain art house. But they booked the art films, from like the mini majors at the time, and like all of those theaters, it was for senior citizens. So there was like, if a kid showed up at your window who was under the age of 60, that was like a major moment at that movie theater. It was exclusively 65 plus. And that kind of set the tone of the job, because then it was like me and a bunch of other like burnout like high school kids working there. And we had this really sweet boss, wholesome guy, kind of like Mr. Rogers vibe. His name was Ray. And he was like, yeah, like just like you should be like working, I don't know, you should be like running some corporation. He was such a like a straight up guy. He really wanted to do right by these senior citizens, and we would just like prank him all day long. Like he had a walkie-talkie on his belt, and whenever he was like talking to a customer, we would get on the other end of the walkie-talkie and make just like fart sounds, Yeah.
And how did Ray react to this?
Ray, that was the sweet thing, He reacted like like Mr. Rogers would react. He's like, "You kids," but with like a sweetness. I had a lot of affection for him, and that was a.
Do we know where Ray is?
I think probably still working at a movie theater.
Oh, nice.
I have a few like bizarre stories from that time. One story is that they would like train us on these combos. They got this at the movie theater, right? It's like, I want combo 4. It's like there was one that was like popcorn, large popcorn and a bottle of water. And the way they like worked out the deals is like the combo actually is cheaper than if you got like a small popcorn and a bottle of water. It's actually, you save $1 if you just get that large popcorn. And it was our job to like explain that to the customers, try to like upsell, but technically sometimes downsell them in this way. And this one time I'm doing my job, I do that. I'm like, oh, if you get the combo, it's actually, you want to do that. I like do the script. And then the person buying it from me goes, just so you know, I'm a scout from corporate. I'm a spy, basically. Like, we come to movie theaters to test to make sure you're doing the right combo sale. And you did a perfect job, so we're going to give you a $100 gift certificate to Best Buy. I'm like, sick. Yeah. I'm like 16, so I'm like, fuck. I'm buying like 2 seasons of 24 with that shit. And Ray, my sweet boss, is like, we're so proud of you, Jane. And then it turned out that the guy went to the wrong movie theater and he was like working for Regal or something. Oh, man. And Ray was like, I'm going to write corporate and see if we could honor the $100 gift certificate anyway. And then like a month later, he was like, so I heard back and unfortunately we cannot. Doing your job doesn't pay off.
So any of these strike you? Family Matinee, Secret Screening, Audience Award, or the Dream Screening?
From my time at the theater, no, probably not, because I was more about like cleaning up the floor.
Any of the screenings you've gone to that plays any of these?
Yeah. We're gonna do Secret Screening.
Okay.
It's like Secret Screening for a movie that I think needs more love than it gets, right? Like, because then people buy the ticket, they don't know what they're about to see, so that you've tricked them into sitting through something that they wouldn't normally sit through. Computer Chess by Andrew Bujalski.
Oh, wow.
You ever watch that?
Yeah.
I fucking love that movie. I've watched that movie a bunch over the last couple of years because, like, in this age of AI, it's pretty prescient. The whole thing is shot on, like old black and white VHS camera. He casts a lot of like the weirdest people from like the regional film festival scene as the actors in the movie. The conceit of the film is that it takes place during in just like a really shitty kind of like roadside motel conference space that's hosting a computer chess tournament in the mid 80s. So it's like all of these computer programmers who are designing machines to play against each other. They're like automating the strategy of chess playing, and it's like soon it will be so good that, like it will be able to beat a human. This is like before even like Windows 95, which obviously like expert level could beat a human. And the winner of the tournament gets to play this old guy who's like the running the tournament, who's like a chess master. And, but the whole thing is sort of done. It's like not I guess it is technically a mockumentary, but it's not a mockumentary in the like The Office style or the Christopher Guest style, but it's sort of like a more authentic version of that, where it's like these people that he's creating, these characters are such little freaks, and they're just getting themselves. There's also like a new age sort of like essentially like orgy conference that's happening over the same weekend. You know, these people doing this like back to like the body kind of workshop together. These married couples that are kind of like swingers, like. And he's playing like the body against the mind, and then by the end of the movie, it makes a few, forgive me, like chess moves that are completely insane. That it like has done all of this work to create this tone of like realism or like this kind of like Austin style, like Richard Linklater style, like hangout vibe. And then there are these moments that kind of complicate it and add this level of like kind of like spiritual surrealist horror to it in the last like 10 minutes. That's like a high watermark for me. I remember I saw that movie at its premiere at the Sundance Film Festival in like the early 2010s. And I remember going to Burger King afterwards, and I was like talking to the guy at Burger King, and he's like, do you see anything good at Sundance? I was like, I think I just saw the best movie that's ever played at Sundance. It's called Computer Chess. That movie really deserves like to be looked at again.
Yeah, it's rarely talked about.
Yeah, no, it is a masterpiece.
All right. Secret Screening, Computer Chess. So we've got opening night, Stop Making Sense, midnight movie, Freddy Got Fingered, Secret Screening, Computer Chess, double feature, Idle Hands, Carnival of Souls, and closing night, True Stories. We're going to Family Matinee with...
Family Matinee, The Wind Rises.
Wind Rises.
Miyazaki.
Oh, yeah.
Our old friend Miyazaki. Not like one of his most talked about movies. It was the one that was before The Boy and the Heron, gonna be his last movie. And then he like unlast movied it, as people are known to do. It's about the artist who designed the model that would become like the suicide plane, the kamikaze plane that was piloted during Pearl Harbor. And so it's almost this like opposite Oppenheimer. You know, it's like the artist who dreams of wind, who designs this tool of death. And And as such, it feels like at the end of a long career obsessed with wind, right? Like the Miyazaki famously like wanted to be a pilot but wasn't allowed to because of, I forget, was it like colorblind or some eye thing?
Yeah.
He did the next best thing, which is like make movies that try to like conjure the feeling of being in the sky, right? Of flying, of wind, of this is such a huge part, right? From like Kiki on the broomstick to like it's in all of his movies.
Porco
Just like,
Rosso and
the joy of like aerial flight, which I think, you know, there are a number of like great filmmakers obsessed with motion in this way. There's something so elegiac about that movie, and it's really like also one of the only films in his body of work that like isn't fantastic. It's like historical. It's still like filled with magic and whimsy. There's just this deep sadness and this like darkness that's obviously there in a lot of his movies. But as I'm a big fan of like the late career, somber, almost like funereal movie. Perhaps it's ironic to put it, this is what I would do in a family matinee no matter what. Yeah, like I would almost liken it to like John Huston's The Dead, like the end of a long career, something that just feels like, like someone giving their own eulogy, and that eulogy is like complicated. Right. I watched this movie for the first time on a plane.
Wow. Perfect.
Yeah, and I was working. I was like on a business trip. I was working like a corporate job at the time, and I wept on that plane. And they say that like when you're in the air, you know, there's something about like the altitude. It's easier to cry. I never cried at that time in my life, but that movie just made me weep. I was so moved by it. The Wind Rises.
Family matinee, The Wind Rises. All right, we're down to 2 showtimes left. We've got the Audience Award for the greatest audience you've ever been a part of, and again, your dream screening.
I'm gonna have to think on the Audience Award one. Dream screening, what is that? That's just like
you can travel through time and space.
I'm traveling through time.
You can make
to any
anything.
Screening. I can go to any screening. Wow, that's cool. Okay, these are high concept.
Yeah, you can break the laws of physics. You can bring people to a screening.
I could go and see like when everyone freaked out because they thought that train was heading right towards them.
Yeah.
You know, I could go see the workers leaving the factory and be like, oh, fuck, they're leaving the fucking factory. What the hell? I mean, it would be amazing to watch like a silent film in the silent film era. Like I just was rewatching Metropolis, and like, it's crazy how like the spectacle of those movies are like more impressive and more like awe-inspiring than what we're making now in our biggest blockbusters. Like, those set, like, yeah, it must, like, I was thinking about this while rewatching Metropolis, like, just the pure spectacle and awe of, like, not only, like, seeing that level of, like, other world at a time, like, that's, like, a magic trick at the time that must have just felt like, what even is being alive? That we can do this. But the fact that, that it was being projected on this new medium, and, you know, that people were, like, when you think about like the power of the screen, which is obviously like, you're right, that's part of my work. We're just so used to it that we don't like step back and go like, wait, that's so crazy that we've created these like 2D boxes of glass that show us dreams that are, you know, at the push of a button. But like in that era, that would have been, what a stunning, what a beautiful thing to be like a kid at one of those screenings. Like it really feels century defining in its way. But I think my dream screening, maybe this is cheating, is I just would have really loved to be at Cannes 68, which is when all of the filmmakers kind of like boycott walked out. And, you know, it was like right in the middle of this moment when it felt like revolution was like actively at the door and like possible. And the big cinema artists of the world, Godard et al., were like, even if they weren't friends with all of each other, there was this like movement of like political solidarity. You know, that famous quote of like, I'm trying to talk to you about solidarity and you want to talk about cinema, like, fuck you. This moment of like art filmmaking, looking at a world that needed to be broken. You know, I guess like maybe if you want to like name a movie, like being at like the premiere of Far From Vietnam, right? Like the movie that Varda and Godard and Chris Marker and many others like collaborated on, that was sort of like their like letter of solidarity to the Vietnamese army. I go back and I watch work from that time often. Yeah, I find myself in these days like really drawn to like just political cinema, you know, like a cinema that is like almost like newsreel. You watch a lot of those like Chris Marker films or Letter to Jane by Godard, and these are films that are like they're still pushing at form, but they're journalism in a way too, or they're having a like pop cultural conversation about revolution, and we're just so far from that right now in our art spaces and in our like spaces where like art and entertainment or pop culture meet. Yeah, and the forces of like commerce have really like neutered like the notion of like radical art making or solidarity between artists. So like competitive and commerce based now. Yeah, I think from my own like nurturance, or you know, like there's something of protest art or feeling like you're in radical spaces that could actually enact some kind of rupture that I think it's good for the soul to find yourself in those spaces. So send me to 68 so I can feel that at the Cannes Film Festival.
Cannes 68.
Has anyone said that yet here?
Someone went to Cannes for Apocalypse Now. But not for that.
Not for Revolution.
Yeah, you went for Revolution. So we are down to our last slot. It's the Audience Award. What makes a great screening to you?
That's the question, and then I guess it depends on the film, right? It's if you're watching something raucous with an audience, like I love watching Miasma with an audience because it's like fun.
Yeah.
And my first couple movies watching it with an audience, if it was playing well, it meant that everyone felt terrible.
Yeah.
Whereas this movie, like people, especially at these like early screenings and queer screenings, like they show up like looking for a good time at the movies. And I think the movie actually like is a good time at the movies. And so then like to sit in the audience and feel everyone just like go wild.
Is that a totally unique feeling? 'Cause
it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's the best. It's like, it's the feeling I was like chasing when I was like making my friends act in zombie movies at, you know, like age 14. Like it's, you make things to make people have a response to them. And yeah, especially when that response is like catharsis and joy and like getting revved up. Yeah. I mean, just like, it's also great because the audience that has sort of like emerged from my work tends to feel pretty young. And like I said, I worked at the movie theater for senior citizens in high school. When I started working in like the film industry in 2009, there was this idea at the time, even still, that like movies and movie theaters were dying. They were for old people. And like the movies that were getting made and put out reflected this. The sort of like classic Sundance movie of the time was like geriatric. You know, it was like a Holocaust movie or like a movie about like the sadness of aging or something. And like there are plenty of good Holocaust movies and movies about the sadness of aging, but these were not like the vanguard punky like breathing new life into the medium kind of works that I sort of was dreaming about. And now, yeah, younger audiences are like hungry for movies. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
I got my audience award. A movie called The Rambler by Calvin Reeder. You know it?
I do not know this.
Calvin was the self-proclaimed walkout king of Sundance when I was like first starting to pay attention to like the American independent landscape. He would make these like really gnarly, bizarro short films on expired 16 millimeter film stock that he just like found from the 70s. And he would do these like really elaborate practical effects where like someone's head would explode or they would be like so gnarly but handmade. And the whole aesthetic and vibe was kind of like a more grindhouse Lynchian kind of thing where it like all felt like it took place in this like dream version of the West. The Rambler is a movie he made a few features. He made a movie called The Oregonian that Factory 25 put out. And then he made this movie The Rambler and like cobbled together from some ill-informed financier off the strength of his like Sundance laurel. Maybe like $2-3 million. The movie starred Dermot Mulroney. It was adapting this short that he made, and it is like one of the I remember him at this premiere screening at Sundance. And by the end of the movie, he had proved his muster. Like, there were like a third of the theater was left by the end. It's like an absolute endurance test of just like gnarly fucking surrealist nastiness.
So is one of your favorite audiences the ones where everyone leaves?
Well, I was sitting next to actually also an actor who's in computer chess. We're really going like early 2010s here in these picks. I'm dating myself. I was sitting next to the filmmaker Dustin Guy DeFay. You know him? He made this movie Person to Person, and he made a movie called The Adults recently with Michael Cera in both of them. Just like another like great like weirdo New York like indie filmmaker. He was buddies with Calvin, and I remember sitting next to him at that movie, and I was like 22, 23 at the time. I was like wet behind the ears, and I was like getting like a glimmer in my eye for like, whoa, people are making some crazy shit out there. Maybe someday I could too. And Dustin just looked at me and went, my friends are making the craziest movies. And I remember at the time, just like that really stuck with me. I remember just being like, that is the goal. It is like, I want someone to say that about me, and I want to say that about someone. Another one, now that I'm thinking about it, would be a couple years later, I was in I think it was like the first American screening at the Maryland Film Festival of The Love Witch. And I remember feeling that feeling in that room. And no one knew what that movie was in that room. It was like a giant house, mostly of filmmakers, because that festival at the time, like all of the filmmakers went to it. That movie had, I think, premiered at Rotterdam and, had not played at any of the major festivals. And we just sat there watching that movie being like, how the fuck is this possible? That something this crazy existed. It's like such a labor of intense, like, for God style love.
She did her own costumes.
Yeah, made like the spell books or whatever in the movie. Yeah, so I think that my audience award take would be like something uniquely moving about like watching a psychotic work that like doesn't feel like it should exist in a room and being like, oh my God, cinema is alive.
Is there anything that you would like to add or change before we close it out? Does Scream need to be up there somewhere?
No, there are so many movies,
Excellent. Real quickly, as we have a few minutes left, what are some of the greatest theaters that you go to?
Yeah, let me give you some theaters from my life. The Brattle in Cambridge was a big one for me. I went to college in Boston, and I remember, I think I had like just started my freshman year when Inland Empire came out. I remember going to see that movie, and Ned Hinkle, who runs the Brattle, was talking before, and it was just like, I've seen this movie about 5 or 6 times, and you're going to need to see it that many times too. And I remember sitting there being like, I'm in film now. Like, here I am. And the purple green clock they have on the wall there just like seared in my memory as a really special place. And that space, I did a lot of my like canonical film watching at the Brattle. And then I got to New York City, which is just replete with amazing movie houses, obviously. I'm pretty partial to BAM. I love BAM. The Walter Reed is special. The first time I got to watch my first film on the big screen, which was during the pandemic, was at New Directors, New Films at the Walter Reed. And it was like, I remember I because it was playing at New Directors, I like got a pass to New Directors, and I hadn't been in a movie theater in a year and a half because of the pandemic. I'd been inside, and it was like just precipice safe to leave again. And I got a mask, and I was just like, I'm just going to go watch 4 movies a day at the Walter Reed. And I sat in the Walter Reed for like 3 or 4 days straight, just watching these these movies by young filmmakers from around the world, and then my own. And that was so special to get to do. You really I missed the theater. Just got a shout out that like the latest theater in my life is, like I said, I live in upstate New York, and there's this movie theater in Catskill called the Community Theater that opened up a video store out of the front of house. And I've been doing programming at the theater, but they're programming, like I saw like a double feature of Citizen Kane and Austin Powers 2, The Spy Who Shagged Me, the other week. And that's my local theater that's really become like my partner and I call it our living room. That's where I live.
Citizen Kane, Austin Powers 2. That feels very you. Highbrow, lowbrow, all put together.
Exactly.
All right, we're putting the Rambler and the Love Witch up on the Audience Award.
Yeah, we are. Hello, I am Jane Schoenbrun at the Jane Schoenbrun Film Festival, here to walk you through my my board. Opening night, we got Stop Making Sense, family-friendly matinee, family-friendly in quotation marks, Miyazaki's The Wind Rises. Our midnight movie, of course, a personal favorite, Freddy Got Fingered. Secret screening, just to trick you into sitting down and watching a movie that I think is vastly underrated, Andrew Bujalski's Computer Chess. We're going to do a double feature because, you know, Halloween is coming up, horror movie double feature. Some favorites that I think balance each other out in an unexpected way, Idle Hands, Carnival of Souls. Audience Award I'm giving to movies that I watched when I was kind of like coming into my own filmmaking voice as a young person at festivals. 2 movies that I just watched and was like, people are making the craziest shit in the world. The Rambler by Calvin Lee Reeder and The Love Witch. Dream screening, I'm going to Cannes in 1968 and trying to help, rupture reality with the French. Closing night, just to put David Byrne end note on it all, is True Stories.
Thank you, Jane. That's the Jane Schoenbrun Film Festival. It's a perfect mix of fun, art, and how did this get made? Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma is in theaters this week. Everyone should go and see it. If you like the films in this festival, you're going to love that film. The American Cinematheque podcast is produced and edited by Victoria Alejandro. Mike Cuenca edits and produces our video. Stephanie Cervantes is our marketing manager. Our theme music is by Gelbird. And I'm your host, Grant Moniger. Thanks to everyone who makes this show possible. The American Cinematheque operates the Aero, Egyptian, and Los Feliz 3 theaters in Los Angeles with programming nationwide. The American Cinematheque is a 501c3 nonprofit. If you'd like to hear more, donate, become a member, or program your own AC Podcast Film Festival, head over to AmericanCinematheque.com.